Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here, and thank you for the privilege of giving you this presentation on behalf of FEMA Region 5 Regional Emergency Communications Coordination Working Group, the RECWIG. And my name is Karl Arriola. I'm the coordinator for the RECWIG and the Disaster Emergency Communications Coordinator for Region 5. So what we're going to do is share this presentation that I've tailored for you. Now, when we discussed about what we're going to talk about, the Integrated Public Alert Warning System is known as IPAWS. And right now, FEMA Region 5 has an expansion initiative. My good friend who's on the call, Mr. John Dooley, who's the IPAWS chair of the RECWIG subcommittee here in Region 5, has been very instrumental in implementing the IPAWS program in the state of Minnesota, where he works out of. All counties in Minnesota are 100% involved in this program. And at the present time, we're using that, what we call the Minnesota model, and we're going to move it into the other 5 states, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and including Michigan, to get the IPAWS expanded with our FEMA integration team for more awareness and a great, wonderful tool to help the public be notified on alerts, notifications, and warnings. So here, trying to get the I'm trying to change my page there, Jen, folks. Just 1 second. And now it's not going. Hold on. Okay. So we ask ourselves, what is IPAWS? Okay. So now the IPAWS is the Integrated Public Alert Warning System. Is the nation's next generation infrastructure of communications warning networks that's expanding upon the traditional audio-only radio and television EAS that we have been known to see when we're young. Be up late at night, 11:30 at night. They do a test on our television, adjust the aluminum foil or the ears on the TV to get the signal in, and then the national anthem would play. But the vision of the IPAWS builds and maintains a very effective, reliable, and integrated, flexible, comprehensive system so that the American people around the country will be able to receive alert and warning information through many means. So the IPAWS was primarily to ensure the President of the United States can alert and warn the public under all conditions, and how IPAWS will provide federal, state, and territorial, tribal, and local warning authorities. So as we see this, a lot of folks don't know this, but the IPAWS can be integrated to local warning authorities with the states, counties, and municipalities. To be a user of the IPAWS, it really doesn't take much. It's a software that's integrated into the governmental computer system. And then the vendor at the current time is one of the major ones is Genesis. They will assist you setting up an account, and you'll be able to transmit messages that will get out to the public and actually kind of geofence the locality or location of where you want the message to be confined to. For example, in Kenosha County, where I live in Kenosha County, the shooting that occurred here in Kenosha County with the officer, the shooting occurred with the gentleman on his back, was 2 miles north of my home. But subsequently, because of the civil unrest, the IPAWS was very instrumental in notifying the citizens of Kenosha and the citizens that passed through Kenosha County from Chicago going north to Milwaukee, commuting to work, going home, and vice versa, that certain exit ramps in the Kenosha County, Kenosha City area were closed and to stay away from. We received IPAWS alerts of what city streets to stay off of because of civil unrest. And because of those integrated messages, it actually potentially prevented more compromise to people's health and safety. Oops, let me go back. Okay, so when we look at the IPAWS architecture, there are standards based on alert message protocols that are authenticated alert message centers. They're shared, trusted across access and distribution networks, which can be delivered to more public interface devices. So on the left of your screen here, we have the alerting authorities, local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal agencies. Now, what's really unique around the country is that we would like to see more use of is the local authorities. And I'm going to give you some examples that it can be integrated to. So the IPAWS complaint in the laptop or computer down below is the compliant CAP alert origination tools, which is the software provided by the vendor. This canned messages or series of messages that can be quickly entered into the system or the computer software is transmitted through the what we call the alert aggregator gateway, and it's routed to the emergency alert system, commercial mobile networks such as telephones, cell phones actually. Various different cellular networks are involved. There is FCC regulatory guidance that stipulates that these commercial mobile networks will integrate the IPAWS messages. The internet services that you'll get messages while sitting at your desk, at your workstation, in your work, or at home teleworking. The National Weather Service, they're embraced this message sending system about severe weather or some other inclement hazards that would be affecting your area. Through state and local unique alerting systems goes down to telephones, to the sirens that can be activated, tornado sirens, or any other alert sirens. Some cities have the sirens near subways and train stations. And there's future technologies. And one of the future technologies that I heard recently is the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration, or NHTSA, is adopting to use this feature integrated into their signs, the billboard signs that go across the lanes of the interstate, whether you're going north or southbound on a major highway. You'll see the amber alerts regarding to the health and welfare safety of children, and the silver alerts regarding and concerning the health and welfare safety of the senior citizens. Play another video for you.
Hey, Karl, when you shared your screen, because we can't hear any audio, when you shared your screen, did you select the optimize for video and audio?
Optimize for video clip, okay.
Yeah.
I did now. And the video thumbnails are minimized to optimize full screen, okay. That should do the trick.
Has not yet been used for weather. She finds out why. The National Weather Service put out a thunderstorm warning Sunday afternoon and again in April. If you received an alert, it wasn't from the IPAWS system.
Spring showers have turned severe twice this season. Sunday storms knocked out power to some in Hamilton County and brought down trees near Cohutta, Georgia. Storms on April 2nd caused more extensive damage. According to the Storm Prediction Center's damage report, numerous trees fell in Hamilton County. There were 19 storm damage reports across the Channel 3 viewing area. The criteria for a severe thunderstorm warning is hail an inch in diameter or greater, wind gust of 58 miles per hour or greater, and or a tornado. Lightning is not a factor. With two recent weather events, we wanted to know if the IPAWS system was used to alert Hamilton County residents. Public Information Officer Amy Maxwell says it was not.
If we put them out all the time, people are going to not even take them seriously, and we want that message to come across as to be a serious matter.
According to TEMA, 33 counties across Tennessee use the alert system that smartphone users can opt into inside their settings. It's up to each county to select when to use the system.
You only have 90 characters, so you got to get it right the first time. And you want to give out the correct information, but then again, you don't want to leave out information.
Hamilton County EMA suggests using a weather radio or other alert system. 11 counties in our area have additional services that alert users to severe thunderstorms with high wind and large hail. Hamilton County did have an additional service years ago, but very few people signed up.
We had maybe a couple of thousand people register for it, and we have a population of more than 350,000.
The Channel 3 weather app is also a good tool to have. It allows you to customize your alerts so you are aware of anything from lightning moving into your area to approaching thunderstorms. The app is free, and the Storm Alert Weather team is here to help you customize it to fit your needs. In the studio, meteorologist Brittany Beggs.
Well, it's been 9 months since.
So right now for the IPAWS current alert distribution outreach to the EAS, we have thousands of TV and radio cable satellite stations privately owned and operated that disseminate some information. The wireless emergency alerts, all wireless carriers are participating, and this is regulatory compliance with the FCC and NTIA for messaging. Internet services, as I explained, the subscription type services and apps that monitor and retrieve alerts from the IPAWS are voluntary usage by the disseminator. So depending on your internet service provider, whether it's Spectrum or Comcast or what have you, some of those right now are voluntary usage because of the wide use of cell phone coverage. But for future communications, there's technologies using common alerting protocols on MXL-based information exchange standards. And I'm going to talk about some future communications that we're considering with the Shares program with Steve Waterman. He came up with this idea that we approached the IPAWS headquarters staff, and this is currently being continuously reviewed, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So for evidence-based practices, it does improve emergency alert capability. It's very reliable for folks out in society to receive many different messages, and there's real-time information which causes people to act from such a notification. So when can IPAWS be used? So when we think about IPAWS, many people think that it's the federal government. It's for a large catastrophic event or disaster, but that may be true. But however, through the implementation and getting the notoriety out there and the exposure, as you saw in the video, one of the counties didn't use it for a tornado, and Tennessee emergency management officials did. But there are more emergency management officials and state emergency operations centers, those are on a call here, who have some colleagues and constituents in those agencies to let them know who don't use the system to very much consider it. Because, for example, in some of the examples here, water contamination. Up in Flint, Michigan, we had a large water contamination. The gridlock on interstate, I-5, in California, the Long Beach Freeway, the Monica Freeway out there in Los Angeles, and the Alligator Alley and Florida Turnpike and 95 and I-75 that I patrolled with the Sawgrass Expressway in Broward County is used frequently for gridlocks. Power outages, toxic fumes. We had a large hazardous technical fire involving a manufacturing company that manufactured lithium and batteries out here in Rockford, Illinois, about 5 months ago. And there was IPAWS messages disseminated there. But outside of presidential alerts to the right, we have chemical spills, law enforcement situations I explained in Kenosha County. So there's a large, wide range of potential use of the IPAWS that are down to the local level and to where local authorities can implement this program. And that's very effective. So when we look at the alerts and warnings and notifications, to break it down, warnings would be for prior incidents. The alert for that would distribute guidance to prepare for an anticipated incident. And the notification would be weather watches, warnings, fires, the Boulder fire, the fires that are happening on the West Coast, even evacuation orders for a chemical spill, even for an active shooter at a major college or university. And the alerts with the warning is at the beginning and duration of the incident with ongoing immediate threats. The alert to gain the attention of the public and draw their attention to the risk or hazard. And notification, as I explained, an active shooter and other dangers with hazardous materials, 911 outages, and even Amber alerts. And on the notification part, the warning could be during and after immediate threats. You're instructing immediate protective actions for the public to do to provide ongoing communications relevant to the event to reduce milling and encouraging public action. The alert is to convey time-sensitive information in response and recovery to related services. And in the notification, protective actions. What evacuations routes should be used? What action should they take about water? When can they return from their evacuations back to their residences? And then also area accessibility updates as well. So for 2021, an effective example of this here in Region 5, where I am assigned out of Chicago, here on the map for our 6 states, there were, at that time, during the first 6 months, this was estimated from June 2021, Region 5 did account for 20% of the WAS sent nationwide in the first 6 months. And that just to go to show you here that a lot of this occurred from severe weather and tornadoes in central Indiana and also Minnesota as well. And then in the Chicago, from Milwaukee on the left of Lake Michigan down to Aurora, Illinois, and southern Illinois with some of the flooding. So when we use the IPAWS system, you do have the capability to go back and track and see the messages that were used within the jurisdictional boundaries, and you'll have access to other information as well. I'll talk about that another time. So now when we talk about the potential of maximizing IPAWS, you know, the share system, look at all the sites we have in the United States. And this is was obtained by Steve Waterman, who's in the group. And this is back in July of 2020. So just a couple of years ago, you can anticipate the growth that has occurred with the share sites and how robust it is with the internet. One server can go down, the resiliency of having a backup server in place in a blink of an eye is working very well within the shares program. And I also happen to be a shares operator. Now, you know, the Amazon backbone of the internet system is very robust. And at the RMS gateways, again, this is July 2020, a couple of years ago, in Region 5, with the RECWIG subcommittee and the different chairs and the folks that we have in the RECWIG, 80% of our states are using RMS and RMS gateways and shares operators and with the WinLink system, with the EMAs and state operation centers. We have one state that will be online soon, Indiana, and they have the equipment. They're just in the process of finalizing the installation with their contractor, and they'll be on board very well. So shares is growing very well, and I talk a lot about shares, and it's a very good resource for interoperability. So now when we talk about future technologies and what can be done in the future, as we discussed with Steve Waterman and his instrumentality, sharing shares and IPAWS. Shares is your HF radio system for backup communications, interoperability, and situation awareness. Being a state trooper from Florida, working Hurricane Andrew, went by my house, and different hurricanes, the 9 other hurricanes I worked in Florida. Highway Patrol Communications went down, had to be calling my telephone if it worked from the home, tell them I was on duty, go to the nearest hospital and sit at the emergency room waiting for the phone to ring for a call. And then I go take the call, come back to the hospital and check it on telephone. Did that for about a week and a half because our Highway Patrol system was down, and it was quasi internet based. So systems go down and WinLink does work. So, and when we look at the IPAWS WinLink messages flow on to the left, the alert group messages are requested to come in from the agencies. It goes into the WinLink message program interface office and the IPAWS server. The alert message group is in a database as well. It's combined and shared and compared, and then it goes into the next arrow, WinLink system. And this is a proposal. And this is a very good proposal because it's very sound, and it's been tested in the laboratory, and from the developers and program software engineers, it definitely can work. From the WinLink CMS, it'll go up to the shares RMS, go out to the radio WinLink Express and it'll go to your call sign email address. So with the IPAWS message flow, it's the text messaging that you'll receive through the WinLink Express system interfaced with the WinLink message interface program. Of course, your radio is not going to ring and make some tones or whatnot, but the messaging concept of canned text messages are there, just as you would use Telnet or WinLink Express. So that's my presentation so far, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have any interest of knowing someone or would like to integrate the IPOS system at your agency, here's my email address and phone number. I'll be happy to put you in touch with the appropriate professionals with the vendor outlet and get you established and get you more information. Thank you. Any questions or any comments?
You want down your share screen? There you go.
Yeah.
All right. We're looking for some. Oh, wait a minute, Carl, you got your hand up.
Hi.
I do.
A comment more than a question. We were doing some geofencing testing in Seattle with IPAWS, and we discovered that we tried to define too small of an area. It was about 1.5 miles by 3/4 of a mile, and there were no cell towers within that geofenced area. And alerts we tested with all the carriers, and I think one of them we got an alert on and none of the others. And we learned we had to expand the area somewhat before we could reliably establish a geofence. So just a comment to everyone, if you're going to use geofencing with IPAWS, you got to have, a test if you're looking for a small area, or start with something a city size or larger as an area to really have reliable geofencing.
That's a very good a comment, and it's a very good awareness to understand that. And I'll complement your comment to my experience when I was deployed to New Jersey and Newark area, and those urban counties with the disaster survival assistance in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Ida. I went out to a lot of residential areas, like for example, Passaic County, Passaic City. And it's not a very big city, but it's heavily populated. And I told the city mayor and the IT folks in the meeting when we started doing outreach there, I was the task force leader with a group of folks that were going to canvass neighborhoods to help people apply for aid, that they could use the IPAWS and use a canned message and geofencing. And what they found is the same thing you experience, that the geofencing went outside the parameters of the city. But I made the comment that in your canned messages, you can edit to say specifically to the residents of Passaic County, from this area to this area, and sort of have a pictorial view by reading the narrative. It really gave more clarification to the reader that what the IPAWS focus was in the geofencing, even though the geofencing didn't work, if you know what I mean. The additional text script identified the outreach, who it was initially for. Go ahead. Back to you.
Okay. Brent, you got your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Carl. Thank you very much for the information. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening.
I want to make sure, good evening. I just want to make sure when I looked at your map, I could actually see London, Ontario on your map where I live, and we're surrounded in this whole situation of what you're dealing with right now. And I'm just wondering if I sent you an email that you could maybe give me some information to maybe put that in place here in Ontario, because we're all sort of dealing with the same situation, especially with weather and heavy rains and winter situations here, that maybe we could put that on WinLink in our own city. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. I will talk with our vendors. I'll get with headquarters, and I will follow up with you on a phone call and get you with the correct individuals for that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Even though the cross border is there, the communications outlet stops at the line. The the cross-border divide between Canada and the United States. But sometimes, you'd think that the information needs to be dispelled further north, and it's not because of the border. There are things that can be done so that the folks on the north side, a pending hazard of approaching or some type of information needs to be disseminated. They're equally the inequality and the equity should be there for distribution. Yes, sir. I'll follow up with you.
Okay, well, I mean, even if you just gave me the information, I could maybe make the contacts by email if they would like it, instead of me getting on a phone call, that would be fine.
Okay, I will do that after.
Okay, I'll
after
send you an email tomorrow and you can just decide how you want to do it, and that's fine with me, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Greatly appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, from Canada. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Carl.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead. I saw John Dooley.
Yeah, John, Peter's, okay. Peter's got his hand up first. Let's take Peter and then go to John.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you for a good presentation. I'm Nevada County Aries in Nevada County, California, and on December 27th, we were hit with a massive snowstorm, and I just got power back yesterday. We still have thousands of people without power, and for the first 6 to 7 days of this event, we had cell service that was completely unreliable, completely out, or parts of it were not working. So my point is that for any of these systems that are depending on cell phones for distribution of emergency messages, we have to start leaning on the cell phone companies to make their systems more resilient. Because when the power goes out, the cell service goes away and it becomes very unreliable. And that has to do not only with individual cell sites, but their connectivity, the backhauls that they use to get back to their primary distribution points can fail, and then nothing works. So that's my comment. And I hope if you have any pull in that area, that we start encouraging these cell phone providers to really do their homework and stop screwing around, because that's what's happening. And we've had it happen multiple times because we have fires out here, and the power gets shut off intentionally during fire season, and we lose communications. So thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for that comment. It's good to note that, Mr. Mason, how you've experienced that from the get-go in your location. But to also complement the cellular outlet, there's also the National Weather Service, and of course there's television and there's internet. But even they go down too. So if the weather is very detrimental and there's ice freezing and the power lines go down and the telephone lines go down, the piggybacking on that are broadband communications, so the internet's going to go down and things of that have you. But not everybody has a National Weather Service radio as well. But because it's human nature to rely on cellular technology, but absolutely because of the push and most of society is relying on that technology, that's a very good perspective. And thank you for that. I will bring that to our private industry telecommunications call about their ongoing improvements and what's being done with the IPAWS integration. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention too, internet is also tied heavily to the power grid. And so when the power goes out, all the cable systems go out, all your rural DSL goes out. Some of the fiber systems will go out because they all depend on power. And so anyway, we've had that problem as well.
Thank you for that, sir.
This brings new meaning to when all else fails. Okay, John Dooley, you took your hand down, but it might be because of the timing of it. Did you want to have the floor for a moment? Go ahead, John.
Sure. In response to Brett's question, in Ontario, Canada, you'll have to deal with the Manassas system, which is the Canadian house. And they deal with that on let's see, what do you call it up there? Your regional, you have to deal with it with it by providence. So you would have to contact somebody in the province you live in. And to Peter's question, yes, you have to have power for a lot of things. Just rely on just one form of emergency communications. You should always have a portable radio, because radio stations pretty much stay up. Unless their tower goes crashing to the ground. They're a good, reliable source of information. The cell phone companies, yes, they are being hit upon to keep them in touch with the outside. But unfortunately, they only so much. Congress enacted a law right after Katrina that they all had to have battery backups. It didn't say how often they had to test those battery backups and how long they had to. So they integrated a lot of these things, but unfortunately they still rely on generators. But like this time of the year, if it's snowing and they can't get there, so that's pretty much.
Thank you for that, John. There was a message, if I may explain, Dan, that was posted on the chat about the amateur radio as a usage. A lot of the clubs and their repeaters, they've got the integrated with the National Weather Service alert that'll come into that's integrated with the repeater. The tone is activated and the Weather Service message is transmitted. Having said that, that's another outlet where the Weather Service uses the IPAWS for weather, of course, but it's sent out to through the repeater on the amateur frequency. Now that's a good question, how the IPAWS could be integrated as we get these notifications through cell phone or the internet, how it can be interfaced with the repeater outside the use of receiving national weather broadcast. That's something that could also be considered with the thousands and thousands of repeaters that are around the country, even with the digital repeaters as well. So that's something that should be considered with the Oxcom community as we work with the RecWig. That is a vehicle that's already in place. Getting some of the repeater clubs together and seeing how much it would cost, for example, to get something started and have it available for purchase, it would be a great consideration. But back to you, Dan.
All right, Steve, hang on for 1 sec. Well, wait, go ahead, Steve. I'll pick you up here. Go ahead and your comments.
My comment about amateur radio is simply that when something does come into a local county or any authority having jurisdiction, or Walgreens, Walgreens billboard, and it is there's no internet and no cell phone, and there's the message does get through either via some land mobile radio, public safety, or whatever way it can. Getting that information to an EOC or a sheriff's office is one thing. Getting it into the community is another. So if you had an alert that was significant that you wanted your population to know, and it's an after the fact, you would have amateur radio set up so that when something like this did happen, there would automatically be an individual at a church or a school or a library or wherever people are going to be caged until the event is over with. So there are a lot of possibilities for amateur radio to disseminate information after it's been received. It does no good to just have the EOC receive the information and then have no means by which they can distribute it to the public, especially in areas where the broadcast station is under a foot of water and all systems are off. So there are possibilities, but it takes a tremendous amount of effort and coordination to make something like that applicable. That's what all comment I had.
Okay. Carl? Hello, Carl. There you are.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Is there any other comments or questions?
We have a hand up. Dan's got his hand up. Let's just for a second. Hang on, Dan, for a second. Barry, would you go over, please, catch up on the chat? We're getting backlogged there. Call on Mr. Barry. Don't hear you, Barry. Okay, well, Barry's trying to find his microphone there. Let's go to Dan. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in chat, there's only one outstanding question about the cost for tribal entities, which Karl can answer. And I was wondering if FEMA has any relationship with Starlink in terms of the, not the dissemination per se, but excuse me, but having sites, and I imagine co-located with shares, there's going to be a lot of Starlink sites here pretty soon. And just comment that addresses the situation, because the burden for power for operating a bidirectional Starlink site is somewhere less than 100 watts of AC power. And I think eventually there'll be some DC power supplies that will do the same job, but that doesn't rely on any local communications or power infrastructure. As long as you can see the sky, you've got a way to get messages through at very high speed and in bulk, actually. But I'm just wondering if FEMA is consciously reaching out to Starlink to start laying the foundation for this kind of stuff. And actually, that might be directed as well at Steve, because it might be, all of the federal emergency communications world could benefit from having a lock on priority traffic for emergency use. So there you have it. Thank you. It was a great presentation, by the way, Karl. Made IPAWS more interesting than it had been.
Thank you very much for Dan, and also I'd like to thank Mr. John Dooley for assisting with some of the articles and information that I put together for the group. To answer your question, I did save the photo, but for me to go back in my emails to find it would be wasting your time. But I want to say this. In the aftermath of the Kentucky tornado that went through regions 7, 6, and 5, in Kentucky, the Starlink, the professionals or the representatives of Starlink actually went out to the scene in many different communities and voluntarily donated Starlink telecommunications equipment. And I have a picture of a dish sitting on somebody's front yard with the case opened up and the wires going into the home and into a vehicle. And the residents of the area within that Starlink was able to communicate and have communications with the outside world. Now, having said that, the RECWIG and my other counterparts with the 9 other DECs, Disaster Emergency Communication Coordinators, as myself, Region 5, we've been watching Starlink very closely, and we've been having a lot of discussions together about, we have the MRSAT, GSAT, the Iridiums, the BGAN, different devices, and the Iridiums, of course, and we're sharing the information that the considerations of Starlink. And we're working very closely. We've been talking with Starlink, but as it all comes down to funding and money and reliability. So we're examining those, and we are seriously considering as time progresses. And it won't be a surprise to me if it's one of the platforms that are added within the FEMA's toolbox. Yes, to answer your question.
And just for Oliver's and Steve's sake, I want to follow up. I think we're going to see Starlink used for tunnels for Arden. And, that'll just take advantage of all that infrastructure as well.
That was a very good technique to bring that equipment out from Starlink out into the scene and to let people touch and feel it, because a lot of the big folks that are able to write the checks in government saw its capability, and it raised some eyebrows and made some people have a friendly smile, saying that they liked it. They need to learn about it, and I see it coming. Yes, sir.
Okay, Larry, you want to put your hand up there?
Yeah, I got that question on the text. It's for tribal use. What is the yearly cost and any grants or other support resources? This is from Diane in Nevada. She does tribal stuff, I guess, up in that area.
Thank you for that question on relaying that question there, Larry. If you don't mind, I'd like to turn that question over to Mr. John Dooley. I hate to put him on a spot. He's a guest, but he's also my mentor and role model with IPAWS. And I say that because Minnesota has 100% usage in their state, and they do have a tribal territories there. And I would like to defer that question to John if he's still on.
Sure.
If he knows that information. Over.
One thing, it just depends upon what kind of grant you can get. You got to check out multiple ones. But the cost of it is all dependent upon the vendor. There's 31 vendors out there that provide IPAWS service, and you can get it for really anywhere from 5,000 to 35,000 a year. But what we pay for it, we can get that. They just have to deal with FEMA directly, because the tribe doesn't have to deal with the states. Even though we are dealing with a couple of our tribes here in Minnesota to get them on IPAWS, and it's a very, very tough process. Even though they have the IPAWS compatible software, they're still rather, because they're not sure about it. But the big thing is just to check out with your local grants coordinator in the tribe, and I think there's some tribal money available through the EMPG or one of those types of grants to get it. But yeah, they can do it, but they can go directly to FEMA. They can bypass the state completely. But you deal with your state and the state and you can try to get some funding. Okay.
Thank you very much, John and Karl. I really appreciate that. I want to be able to pass some information on to our emergency manager here and let them take it from there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and have them feel free to contact me, and we'll take it from there.
Hey, that sounds great, Karl.
Thank you for that, John. Appreciate it. Any other additional questions there, Dan?
I don't see anything. Do you see anything in chat there, John? I mean, Karl, somebody? Karl?
No, we're doing good. All caught up, I believe.
I think we are too. Don't see any more hands up. It's been a great presentation. There's a lot of notable people in this one here, and they'll pass it on. Of course, we'll put the video out and we'll be able to share it. So really appreciate this, Karl.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the support of Mr. John Dooley as well.
Karl, I just, let's see, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, I just thought of this is Diana, KJ7GVY. I just thought of a quick question. I think currently the system being used here with the tribe, I think is called RAV or RAVE. Does that sound,
Yes, it does.
does IPAWS and that system go together? Can they make a relationship?
Yes, ma'am, that system is compatible, and about 8 counties in Minnesota use it.
Absolutely fabulous. So it looks like something might move forward here. Thank you.
Okay, Karl, KN7KUW in Seattle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And I completely forgot what I was going to ask. Oh, I know the comment I was going to make. In addition, what you want to do is communicate to your communities by however means that their cell phones have different types of alerts that you can authorize, or you can set your phone to receive or not receive. Presidential alerts are mandatory. You can't disable that, but every other type of alert that IPAWS can send through the cellular system can be turned off. And it does you no good at all if people turn all of their alerts off. So if you're going to implement it, you also want to do a little community reach out, community publicity or whatever, to encourage citizens to enable the applicable alerts on their phones so that they can receive these messages.
Thank you, Karl. That's a very good point, because that was informed by the local government folks at Passaic County when I went to New Jersey. You break a good point. If with the news media, not outside of IPAWS, when the news media lets the citizens know that FEMA has a outreach command vehicle, a mobile communications office vehicle where the folks can come and register, have the satellite up, and have the internet services and Wi-Fi working in a parking lot, to let them know to turn their messaging off, because we'll have notifications of how long we'll be there, what location we're going to move to next, and the hours of operation. So that's a very good point there. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right.
Well, I don't see any more hands up. I might make a comment to the gentleman in California on the power thing. I have a cabin in Idaho. It has no commercial power, so we don't rely on it. But we do have a satellite system for internet. And of course, when Starlink gets in our area, we'll have that. When we know we're going to have a communications problem, we just set ourselves up for it. It's just what we do throughout many areas of Idaho, and I'm sure other parts of the country. So it's just something to think about. If you live in an area that you're vulnerable to power losses, vulnerable to communication losses, it's just a normal thing to set you up around that.
But it really doesn't, unfortunately, because if our OES is trying to send out messages, then we don't get them through a satellite delivered system at this time. So that's part of the problem. The other thing I wanted to mention, thank you anyway, Dan. I wanted to mention, I'm looking at my cell phone right now, and I have presidential alerts, extreme alerts, severe alerts, and amber alerts. Those are the choices that I have to turn on or off. So where does IPAWS fit into this?
When you have, that's a very good question. So you have the different alerts for amber and silver alerts turned off?
No, I don't. I have everything turned on.
Okay. And can you repeat your question? I apologize. I was.
Well, what I'm hearing here is that IPAWS has a lot of granularity, so that a local jurisdiction can use it for notifications in a certain area. So how does that fit into extreme, severe, or amber?
I'll allow Mr. Dooley to, if you don't mind elaborating on that, John, from your experience in your state.
Yep. The way the alerts work is you have your presidential alert, which is going to be called the national alert in the next year. By about July of this year, you'll see a change in your phone menu. It will say national alert instead of presidential. It'll give FEMA the authority to send out a message for the president. Your imminent threat, or let's see. Now Google went and pulled a fast one. You listed out 2 alerts there. It was an imminent threat, and what else was it?
You talked about Amber and the silver alert, and then the standard alert.
The Amber Alert is a separate code you can turn on and off. So people, if they don't care about a missing child, they can turn that one off. The imminent threat, they could turn that one off also, but the imminent threat deals with every other alert out there. Everything from a tornado warning to a hazmat spill to a law enforcement warning, that's all thrown together and classified as an imminent threat. That's why in the state of Minnesota, we realized that early on, and we basically have 4 codes to warn for. Civil danger warning, which basically we equate that to a black cloud day. A evacuate immediately, which means get out. A shelter in place, which means stay inside, and then the civil emergency message, which we basically equate to the blue, information side. This is information that has to get out to the public, in a priority way. But they have so many codes in there that it just wasn't worth, putting all the time and effort into programming it all in. And it's just the way it is. But the way that your cell phone reads the message and it goes through, you never see the code. So we just basically made it as simple as possible for the people sending the alerts, and then we made it as simple as possible for the broadcasters. This is just the 4 alerts here, and then 3 more for the state, and that's all they have to program in. Instead of if you put them all together with all the weather and the EES codes, you would have about 35 codes that they have to program in, and they'd have to put that in as a separate item for each station that they broadcast. It just wasn't worth it.
And does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention also that we've had some experience with using these for fast-moving wildfires, and there is a lot of confusion in the cell phone industry as to how this information is presented on the phone. There is not a standard approach, and it's extremely confusing. You have a community meeting and you start to talk about this stuff, and people go, well, I don't have that on my phone, and or I have something that says something that's different, or I don't even have the application on my phone for emergency alerts. So there really needs to be a clear clear plan to make this all similar on every phone, so that there isn't this confusion when you start to try to tell people, go to this place, turn these things on, whatever it is. And that's just been our experience. The iPhone is different from the Android, and different flavors of Android are different. So
that's the biggest headache all the way through is to try to explain to people and to try to get the handset manufacturers to standardize the way they do their menus. It's absolutely crazy that they can't get it together like that.
yeah, I agree. Thanks. Appreciate it.
If I may compliment that, John, I just had a notification from our private industry telecommunication partners that the 3G devices are being turned off as of February. So a lot of us are comfortable with using a device, and it could be 3G technology, but we just say to ourselves, I've had this cell phone for many years. I don't want to get a new one, and this works great. But be prepared. The interruption's going to occur after in February and after February. That the 3G devices that T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon have out there are no longer going to be implemented. So keep that in mind with family and friends.
Okay, Karl, K7KW in Seattle.
And 7KUW, yes, thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. The original question I think Peter had was, are the presidential and extreme and et cetera, different alerts? They are all part of the EAS. They are all part of IPAWS. And I think the originator of the message selects what priority that message is, if it's an extreme message or a lesser. I think that is done by the originator of the message. No? Okay, John or Karl, can you comment on who sets that? What determines if it's an extreme or something lower?
That's set at the IPAWS server. The presidential one has to have a special code coded for the president. The imminent threat comes from public safety. That's all public safety elements. A CAE, which is an Amber Alert, that comes from special elements, and like in our state, only one is authorized to do that. That's our BCA, and then now there's also a public safety alert in there too. So say like if the National Weather Service puts out a flood warning, and you have a flash flood warning for Upsaloosa County. Now that sheriff gets notification from a deputy or a Skywarn person that the intersection of X and Z is totally underwater, and the bridge is washed out. He can stick out a public safety alert to follow up a message from the National Weather Service, saying now you have maybe the bridge at X and Y intersection is the only way to get through the county. He could put it out and say, that bridge is down. You have to find other means to get around. And that could mean the ambulance could be taking it, another 30 minutes to arrive. So that gets out to that portion. Then like the silver alerts, that is just an imminent threat alert. So it's basically the same as all of them. So you have those 1, 2, 3, and 4 alerts on that portion. But the only two that a public safety person could select for that to be going through the system.
Okay, does that answer the question?
Yes, for me, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's go over to Kev, I guess it is. Got a Y and call sign there.
You're still on mute.
Yeah. AH6QO, can you come on, please? Oh, you took your hand down. All right, for you.
Can you hear me now?
You're fine now.
Okay, much better. Yes, I'm here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and my point is in regards to the confusion that we just talked about in regards to the message format, etc. We do need a clear standard message that looks real. And the reason why I stress the word real, when I experienced the North Korea missile false alarm alert, I got this white block in the middle of my phone with very plain text. And my first reaction was, we've been hacked. And it did not look real, and nobody was taking it seriously. Well, for one thing, we didn't have the sirens go off, and there was no EAS over anything. But still, we need to have a very clear standard message that looks real. And especially in this age, we found out the hard way that the social media look is what everybody is looking at, not something plain. It has to be, I hate to use a word, but it has to be kind of fancy looking. It has to look sophisticated. That might be a better word, sophisticated. And people have to understand that this type of information does not emanate from necessarily the governor. Everybody was waiting for 38 minutes for the governor to issue something on Twitter and Facebook. Not the plan. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Karl, back to you.
Thank you very much for that insight from Hawaii. If I may ask, from your experience, is the system integrated with the island chain, or is it coming out of the main island?
It was statewide. I happen to be on the Big Island. I live on Oahu, Honolulu, but I happen to be on the Big Island, and I got it, and I immediately got a telephone call from my wife. She got it also back on Oahu. So it is statewide. There is the capability of targeting certain counties, but in this case, since it was a supposed North Korea missile attack, that all of the state was involved.
Good information. Thank you very much for that, Kev. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, and I was at the state warning point for over 11 years, and I had the capability of issuing the wireless emergency alerts and others as part of what we had to do. And to have it come out looking so unsophisticated, just a plain block, was very disheartening. At any rate, I hope that we can move forward and have a standard, clear message and promulgate what the look is like, so that when people actually get it, they pay attention to it and turn around, don't drown kind of mentality. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good point. Thank you very much, Kev. Any other questions there, Dan, or comments?
I think Karl's asking if there's some more questions there. I don't hear any more or see any more questions. Karl, can you try to speak some more? You're coming through weekly.
Okay, can you hear me now? A little bit better?
Yes, that is a lot better.
Okay, I apologize. I put my speaker jack in with my headset and it doesn't work. So I don't know what I did to my government laptop, but I'm glad the external microphone's working. And thank you very much to meet you, everybody on the call. I'm glad you enjoyed the informative presentation. And again, thank you to John Dooley for his assistance. And it's great working with John. He's been a great mentor since I've been with FEMA. And back to you, Dan.
All right, well, thank you very much. I don't see anything more in chat, and make a double check there on your end there, Karl. And I don't see hands up, so I think we'll be wrapping this one up for this night. Thank you very much, Karl. Good presentation.
You're welcome. 73.
All right, 73s, everyone. And as I always say at this point, if you, after I close it down, if you just come right back in like you got in the first place, the thing's open, you just chat and visit and this kind of thing.
Have a safe week, everybody. Thanks, Karl and John.
Thank you.